Today we're going to talk a little bit about light painting. Hey class, welcome back. Today we have another class. I'm going to be doing like a mini series here. We're getting into the topic of light painting. Now I'm doing this as a series because there's a lot of substance here, so we're going to be breaking this up into chunks. So today's class we're going to be talking about the creative aspects of light photography. Light painting is a creative element. So instead of just going out and snapping a single shot, you're actually going to be using a long exposure shot and painting with light. At least that's the method I'm going to be going over with you. Creatively, light photography you can use to accent and accentuate a subject matter, use it as a design element, use it as a completely different art form from photography altogether. That's what brings it to the creative element. I'm a big fan of doing this because I did some old school stuff which was called a photogram. We're going to go over that in a minute. That really brought in, instead of taking an actual picture, you're using the tools that you have, the camera itself, the long-term exposure. So when photography was first invented, it started off with a emulsion that was placed over a screen, over a piece of film, and how light activated the chemicals that were on that. Now, personally, I teach this early on in photography, and the reason I do this is because it gets you to understand how we use light in photography to really create the entire photographic process. Photography itself is based around how light is interpreted via, now we use digital, but in the olden days we used film, and all the film was a plastic sheet that had photosensitive chemicals pressed upon the top of it, and the light that touched that photochemical changed it from a black to a white. Well, this was back when I was shooting a lot of black and white photography. Fun stuff. If you got a minute, go get some, go experiment. Lots of fun. Because you understand how light is affecting those photochemicals, then you can understand light painting a lot faster, and then it creates more of a creative aspect, because art itself is all about the creative experience, and I want to dive into that as often as I possibly can. It's a fun playground to play in. And that takes us into the second thing that I want to talk about, using light as a medium. So when you're doing these photograms, light painting, when you're dealing with light painting, you're actually using the light itself as the brush, as the palette of paint that you're using across your canvas, which is your photograph. And that's how we're going to be creating the different designs that we do. I started experimenting, trying to do words, trying to do shapes in my design, and painting up different scenes in the way that I'm orchestrating my light. That creates a much more creative creative process, and that's a lot of fun, because then instead of having to do the old school grab a brush, grab some paint, and start making a painting, now we can use the light in the same process. So I'm moving the light across a large span of space. I was just working in my backyard when I was creating my designs, and I want to paint the trees, or I want to paint the grass a certain way, so I'm getting certain amounts of light in those spaces. And then to dress it up, all I did was I've got all these colored gels, which are we hold these over the light to create a different effect across the screen, so that it creates much more of a texturalized component inside of the photography. And if you don't have that, you can totally use tissue paper. Works exactly the same, because you're outside and you're dealing with this raw light. You're dealing with this raw light source. The tissue paper, which is going to dull some of the light a little bit, actually might work better, because then you don't have the harshness of the bulb, which is being seen through those clear transparencies of the gels, and the tissue paper just works a little easier for that. Now, this takes me back personally to old school photography, photograms. If you've never done a photogram, 10 to 1 bets because you never had a darkroom experience. So inside the darkroom, we have our enlarger, and it's set over our pan or tray or canvas. And what we would do, we would set our photo paper in there, and then we put objects on top of there, expose the light through those objects, and the shadow effects that are left behind create the photogram, or the photogram idea. I did a lot of stuff with sand and glass, and not so much solid objects. Most times that you see photograms, they were taken by putting a solid object over there and how light moved around that object. I prefer dealing with transparent items and semi-opaque items, so that I could see how light moved across different things, how light was shifted by dealing with these different objects. And that created a much more interesting piece for me. I got really big into doing fake astral photography through my photograms, and because it's fun, and it's just fun to experiment. That's the kind of stuff in the creative aspects of this creative photography thing I like to have fun with that. I hope you guys do too. All right, so again, we're just dipping our toes. We're gonna be going. This is a series, so check out the other videos so that you can get the full realm of light painting, and look forward to doing some creative other things with you guys. As always, let's close out class. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share on all the various platforms. If you have a question during this class, raise a hand in the comments below. Happy to answer those questions. As always, I will see you guys next class. So until then, later, guys.